The hospital room smelled of antiseptic and regret, a sterile cage where Emily's world unraveled. Her father's hand, once strong enough to lift her onto his shoulders, lay cold and still in hers as the heart monitor flatlined. At 28, Emily Carter was an orphan in all but name, her grief a tidal wave that threatened to drown her. She stood frozen in the Seattle rain outside the hospital, her auburn hair plastered to her face, unsure how to move forward. Her father Tom had been her anchor, her confidant through a chaotic childhood with a mother who'd left when Emily was 9. Now with him gone, the only place left was the one she'd avoided for nearly 2 decades, her mother's house in Portland. The drive south was a blur of wet highways and memories. Emily's mother Laura had remarried 2 years ago, a fact Emily learned through a curt email. Laura's new wife Sarah was a mystery, a woman Emily had never met, only heard about in passing. The thought of living with them, strangers in a house that held no warmth for her, felt like stepping into a life that wasn't hers. Yet, with her father's small apartment sold to cover medical bills and her freelance graphic design work barely keeping her afloat, she had no choice. Portland greeted her with a drizzle that mirrored her mood. The house was a modest craftsman, its porch cluttered with potted plants and a wind chime that sang softly in the breeze. Laura opened the door, her face a mix of hope and hesitation. At 52, she looked softer than Emily remembered, her blonde hair streaked with silver, her eyes carrying the weight of years apart. "Emily," Laura said, voice trembling, "I'm so sorry about Tom." Emily nodded, her throat tight. "Can I just come in?" Inside, the house smelled of lavender and fresh bread. Sarah appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She was in her late 20s, closer to Emily's age than Laura's, with long black hair tied loosely and eyes that sparkled with quiet intensity. Her smile was warm, unguarded, and it caught Emily off guard. "Hi, I'm Sarah," she said, extending a hand. "I'm so glad you're here." Emily shook her hand, feeling a jolt at the touch. Sarah's fingers were warm, steady, unlike the chaos swirling inside her. "Thanks," Emily muttered, pulling back quickly. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to survive. The first week was a tightrope walk. Laura tried too hard, her attempts at conversation stilted, as if afraid of breaking something fragile. Emily kept her distance, retreating to the guest room with her sketchpad, drawing to escape the ache of her father's absence. But Sarah was different. She didn't push. She left mugs of chamomile tea outside Emily's door, slipped notes with silly doodles under the gap, and once when Emily couldn't sleep, Sarah sat with her on the porch at 2 a.m., sharing stories of her own fractured childhood in foster care. "You don't have to talk," Sarah said that night, her voice soft against the hum of crickets. "But I'm here when you do." Emily didn't respond, but something in Sarah's presence, her quiet strength, her lack of judgment, made the knot in Emily's chest loosen just a fraction. Days turned into weeks, and Emily found herself watching Sarah. The way she laughed with Laura, her hand resting easily on Laura's back. The way she hummed while cooking, her movements precise yet carefree. One evening as they washed dishes together, Sarah's arm brushed Emily's, and the air crackled with something unspoken. Emily's heart raced and she stepped back, confused by the warmth flooding her cheeks. She wasn't supposed to feel this. Not here, not now, not for her mother's wife. But Sarah's gaze lingered, her eyes searching Emily's with a question neither dared to voice. The tension was a live wire, dangerous and undeniable. Emily lay awake that night, her father's voice echoing in her mind. "Follow what makes you feel alive, kid." For the first time since his death, she wondered if she could. The Portland autumn painted the city in shades of amber and crimson, but Emily's world remained gray. She spent her days sketching in coffee shops, her portfolio growing but her heart still heavy. At home, Laura's attempts to bridge their 19-year gap felt like a script she hadn't rehearsed. Emily answered in monosyllables, her resentment a wall she wasn't ready to dismantle. Sarah, though, was a different story. She was a photographer, her work raw and vivid, capturing moments of beauty in the mundane. Emily found herself drawn to Sarah's darkroom in the basement, a cramped space filled with the sharp scent of chemicals and prints pinned to a clothesline. One afternoon, Emily lingered at the door, watching Sarah develop a photo of a street musician, the image slowly emerging in the tray. "You're good at this," Emily said, breaking the silence. Sarah glanced up, her smile soft. "Thanks. Want to try?" Emily hesitated, then stepped inside. Sarah handed her a strip of film, guiding her through the process. Their hands brushed as Sarah adjusted the enlarger, and Emily's breath caught. Sarah's proximity was a quiet storm, stirring something Emily hadn't felt in years. Not since her college girlfriend, a relationship that had crumbled under the weight of her father's illness. "You're a natural," Sarah said, her voice low as the photo developed. It was one of Emily's sketches, a portrait of her father, his eyes crinkled with laughter. Tears pricked Emily's eyes. "He'd have loved this," she whispered. Sarah's hand rested on her shoulder, a gesture meant to comfort but sparking something deeper. Emily pulled away, her heart pounding. "I should go." That night at dinner, Laura noticed the tension. "Everything okay?" she asked, her eyes flicking between Emily and Sarah. "Fine," Emily said too quickly. Sarah's gaze was steady, but Emily couldn't meet it. The next day, Emily found a note tucked into her sketch pad. "Your art is your heart. Don't hide it." She clutched it, torn between fear and longing. Sarah was her mother's wife, a line she couldn't cross. Yet every glance, every accidental touch, felt like a step toward something inevitable. Laura planned a weekend trip to the coast, hoping to bring them closer. The drive to Cannon Beach was filled with Laura's chatter, but Emily's thoughts were on Sarah, who sat in the back seat, her camera capturing the fleeting landscape. At the beach, Laura wandered ahead, collecting shells, while Emily and Sarah lingered by the tide pools. "You're quiet today," Sarah said, her voice gentle. Emily kicked at the sand, "Just figuring things out." Sarah's eyes softened. "You don't have to do it alone." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Emily wanted to confess the chaos in her heart, but guilt stopped her. Laura was trying, and Emily was betraying her with every thought of Sarah. That night, in their shared rental cabin, Emily couldn't sleep. She slipped outside, the ocean's roar a mirror to her turmoil. Sarah found her, a blanket draped over her shoulders. "Cold out here," Sarah said, sitting beside her. Emily's voice trembled. "Why do you make this so hard?" Sarah's breath hitched. "I'm not trying to." Their eyes met, and for a moment the world was just them. The crash of waves, the salt in the air, the pull of something neither could name. Sarah reached out, then stopped, her hand falling. "We can't," she whispered. Emily nodded, tears falling. "I know." But knowing didn't stop the ache. Back in Portland, the house felt smaller, the air thick with unspoken words. Emily threw herself into her work, taking on freelance projects to avoid the pull of Sarah's presence. But the darkroom became a refuge, a place where their shared passion for art blurred the lines of propriety. Sarah taught her to see light in shadow, to capture truth in a frame, and every lesson felt like a confession. One evening, as they worked side by side, Sarah's hand lingered on Emily's as they adjusted a print. The touch was electric, and Emily didn't pull away. "Emily," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper, "we need to talk." Emily's heart raced. "About what?" Sarah's eyes were raw, vulnerable. "This. Whatever this is." Emily stepped back, the weight of her mother's trust crushing her. "There's no us. There can't be." Sarah nodded, but her expression betrayed her. "I know, but I feel it too." The admission shattered something in Emily. She fled to her room, locking the door, her sketches scattered across the bed. She drew Sarah, her eyes, her hands, the curve of her smile, until her fingers ached. It was wrong, but it was real, and that truth was a knife in her chest. Laura noticed the shift. At breakfast, she set down her coffee, her voice careful. "You and Sarah seem close." Emily's fork froze midair. "We're just working together." Laura's smile was strained. "I'm glad you're connecting. She's good for you." The words twisted in Emily's gut. She wanted to scream that Sarah was more than good. She was a spark in the dark, a reason to feel again. But she swallowed the truth, nodding instead. Weeks passed and the tension grew. Emily caught Sarah watching her, her gaze a mix of longing and restraint. At a gallery event for Sarah's photos, Emily stood in the crowd, watching Sarah charm strangers with her easy laugh. A woman flirted with Sarah, and jealousy flared in Emily's chest, sharp and unexpected. She left early, walking home in the rain. Sarah found her later, soaked and shivering on the porch. "You left without saying goodbye," Sarah said, her voice soft but firm. "I couldn't watch you with her," Emily admitted, her words raw. Sarah's eyes widened. "Emily, I wasn't." "It doesn't matter," Emily cut in. "You're married. To my mom." Sarah's face crumpled. "I know. But I can't stop feeling this." They stood inches apart, the rain a curtain around them. Emily's heart screamed to close the distance, but she turned away, the weight of loyalty heavier than her desire. The next day, Emily applied for a design job in Seattle, desperate for distance. The interview went well and an offer followed. She told Laura first, expecting relief, but her mother's face fell. "You're leaving?" Laura asked, her voice small. "I need to start over," Emily said, avoiding Sarah's gaze. Sarah said nothing, but her silence was louder than words. Emily packed her bags in silence, her sketches folded carefully into a portfolio. The Seattle job was a lifeline, a chance to escape the tangle of emotions that threatened to consume her. But each item she placed in her suitcase felt like a betrayal, not just of Sarah, but of the fragile bond she'd begun to rebuild with Laura. Sarah avoided her, her usual warmth replaced by a guarded distance. Emily hated it, but she understood. They'd come too close to crossing a line, and the only way forward was apart. The night before she left, Laura cooked a farewell dinner. The table was set with care, but the air was heavy. Laura raised a glass, her smile wavering. "To new beginnings," she said. Emily clinked her glass, her eyes avoiding Sarah's. After dinner, Laura retreated to bed early, leaving Emily and Sarah alone in the kitchen. "You're really going," Sarah said, her voice flat. "It's for the best," Emily replied, though the words tasted like ash. Sarah's eyes glistened. "I wish things were different." Emily's throat tightened. "Me too." They stood there, the space between them a chasm. Emily wanted to say more, to confess the depth of her feelings, but the weight of Laura's love for them both held her back. She left the kitchen, her heart breaking with every step. In Seattle, Emily threw herself into her new job, designing logos for a tech startup. The city was vibrant, but it felt hollow without Sarah's laugh, her touch, her presence. She called Laura weekly, their conversations polite but strained. Sarah was never mentioned, a ghost in their silences. Months passed and Emily dated. A barista, a writer, a musician, but no one stirred her like Sarah had. She sketched obsessively, her drawings filled with Sarah's eyes, her hands the curve of her neck. One night, drunk on wine and loneliness, she mailed a sketch to Sarah. A portrait of her laughing, captioned simply, "I miss you." A week later a letter arrived. Sarah's handwriting was shaky. "I miss you too. But this hurts too much." Emily cried for hours, the letter clutched to her chest. Laura called unexpectedly one evening. "Can you come home for Christmas?" she asked. "It's not the same without you." Emily hesitated, then agreed. The drive to Portland was a journey into the unknown. When she arrived, Laura hugged her tightly, but Sarah's greeting was reserved, her smile polite. The house felt different, colder, despite the holiday lights. On Christmas Eve, Emily found Sarah in the darkroom, sorting through old prints. "I shouldn't have sent the sketch," Emily said, breaking the silence. Sarah looked up, her eyes raw. "It's beautiful, but it doesn't change anything." "I know," Emily whispered. I needed you to know." Sarah's voice broke. "I love Laura. But I love you too, and it's tearing me apart." The confession hung between them, a truth too heavy to carry. Emily left the darkroom, her heart in pieces knowing she couldn't stay. Christmas morning dawned with snow dusting Portland's streets. Emily sat by the window watching flakes fall, her mind a storm of regret and longing. Laura bustled in the kitchen, humming carols, oblivious to the fracture beneath the surface. Sarah avoided Emily's gaze, her hands busy wrapping gifts, but the tension between them was a pulse neither could ignore. After breakfast, Laura suggested a walk to the park. The three of them bundled up, their breath visible in the crisp air. Laura walked ahead, pointing out holiday decorations, while Emily and Sarah lagged behind. The silence was unbearable. "I'm sorry," Emily said finally, her voice low. "For the sketch. For everything." Sarah's eyes were distant. "It's not your fault. It's mine too." They stopped by a frozen pond, Laura's laughter echoing as she tossed snow at a neighbor's dog. Emily's heart ached. She wanted to hate Sarah for making her feel this way, but all she felt was love. Raw, impossible love. Back at the house, Laura pulled Emily aside. "I see how you look at her," she said, her voice steady but pained. Emily froze, her stomach dropping. "Mom, don't," Laura interrupted. "I'm not blind. I don't know what to do." Tears welled in Emily's eyes. "I'm trying not to feel this. I swear." Laura's face softened, but her eyes were haunted. "I love you both. But it's breaking us." That night, Emily made a decision. She couldn't stay, couldn't keep hurting Laura or herself. She packed her bags again, leaving a note for Laura. "I need to find my own way. I'm sorry." She didn't say goodbye to Sarah. It was too much. Back in Seattle, Emily tried to rebuild. She took on more clients, filled her nights with friends, but Sarah's absence was a wound that wouldn't heal. She stopped sketching, the act too tied to her pain. Months turned into a year, and Emily learned to live with the ache, though it never faded. Then one spring day Laura called. Her voice was shaky. "Sarah's gone," she said. "She left me." Emily's heart stopped. What happened? Laura's words were halting. She said she couldn't stay, not after everything. She's in New York now, starting over. Emily hung up, her mind reeling. She wanted to be angry, to blame Sarah, but all she felt was loss. She booked a flight to Portland, needing to see Laura to understand. When she arrived, Laura was a shadow of herself, her eyes red from crying. "I thought we could fix it," Laura said. "But she was always looking at you." Emily's guilt was a tidal wave. "I never meant for this to happen." Laura took her hand. "I know. But love doesn't follow rules." Emily stayed for a week, helping Laura through the wreckage. But her thoughts kept drifting to Sarah, to what might have been. Emily returned to Seattle, but Portland lingered in her bones. Laura was healing slowly with therapy and friends, but Emily carried the weight of their fractured family. She hadn't heard from Sarah since the breakup, and the silence was a wound she couldn't close. One evening, scrolling through an art blog, Emily froze. A post featured Sarah's new exhibit in New York, her photos described as raw, heartbreaking, and deeply personal. The preview image was a portrait of Emily, her face half-lit, her eyes full of unspoken longing. The caption read, "For the one who made me feel alive." Emily's breath caught. She booked a flight to New York the next day, her heart a tangle of hope and fear. The gallery was in Brooklyn, a small space packed with people. Sarah's photos lined the walls, images of Portland, of Laura, of moments Emily recognized. And there, in the center, was her portrait, larger than life. Sarah stood across the room, her hair shorter, her expression guarded. When she saw Emily, her face softened, then hardened again. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, her voice low. "I saw the exhibit," Emily said. "I had to come." Sarah looked away, her hands trembling. "I didn't think you'd see it." "The caption," Emily said, her voice breaking. "Did you mean it?" Sarah's eyes met hers, raw and unguarded. Every word. They stepped outside, the city buzzing around them. Emily's heart pounded. "You left her. You left me." "I had to," Sarah said, tears falling. I was hurting everyone. I thought distance would fix it. Did it? Emily asked, stepping closer. Sarah shook her head. No. I still love you. The confession broke something in Emily. She closed the distance, her lips meeting Sarah's in a kiss that was both apology and promise. The world fell away, leaving only them, two hearts finding each other in the chaos. But reality crashed back. What about Laura? Emily whispered, pulling back. Sarah's face crumpled. I broke her heart. I can't undo that. Emily took her hand. We'll figure it out. Together. They spent the night talking, unraveling their guilt, their love, their fears. Sarah's apartment was small, filled with prints and memories. Emily stayed, and for the first time in years she felt whole. But the weight of Laura's pain lingered, a shadow they couldn't ignore. Emily and Sarah built a life in New York, tentative at first, then fierce. They shared a small apartment, their days filled with art and love, their nights with whispered promises. But Laura's absence was a constant ache. Emily called her weekly, each conversation a step toward healing. Laura was dating again, her voice lighter, but the hurt lingered in her silences. One summer, Emily and Sarah returned to Portland. Laura had invited them, her letter simple. I want to see you both. I want to understand. The reunion was raw, fragile. Laura hugged them both, her eyes wet but steady. I've missed you, she said, her voice thick. They sat in the backyard, the same one where Emily and Sarah had shared late-night talks. Laura spoke first. I was angry for a long time. But I see it now, you two were meant to be. Emily's tears fell. I never wanted to hurt you. Laura took her hand. I know. And I want you to be happy. Sarah's voice was quiet. I'm so sorry, Laura. For everything. Laura smiled, small but genuine. Love is messy. But it's worth it. They spent the weekend together, rebuilding what they could. Emily showed Laura her new sketches. Sarah shared her latest photos, and slowly, the pieces of their family began to fit again. Not as they were, but as something new. Back in New York, Emily and Sarah hung a photo in their apartment. A candid shot of the three of them, laughing in Laura's backyard. It was a reminder of what they'd lost, but also what they'd gained. Emily's sketches returned, vibrant and alive, and Sarah's photos captured their shared journey. One evening, as they sat on their fire escape, Sarah took Emily's hand. You made me feel alive again, she said. Emily smiled, her heart full. You did the same for me. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. A testament to resilience, to forgiveness, to the messy beauty of human connection. And in that they found meaning, a life rebuilt from the ashes of loss.